ओम त्यागेश्वरमिदवाच मलं शरीरस्य च भैषजेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां Patanjalim प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि. In our last class, we started discussion on the antarayats or obstacles to the path of yoga. The topic of antarayats comes from the Ishvara Pranidhana. The result of Ishvara Pranidhana, which is prayerful meditation on God or Ishvara and seeking the grace of God, the result of that is pratyakchetanadhigamo antaraya bhavascha. That will give us knowledge of our own real nature, and also it will remove the obstacles. That was the sutra. That is where the obstacles were mentioned. That obstacles will be removed by grace of God as a result of Ishvara Pranidhana. And then what are those obstacles? Those were listed in the next sutra. Now, as was mentioned, these obstacles will be removed by the grace of God, no doubt. But still, to deserve that grace, to get that grace, we need to exert ourselves, we need to exhaust ourselves. Our free will has to be used completely. Then only we become eligible to receive the grace of God. And that is why we need to make an effort. And perhaps that is why Patanjali is listing these obstacles. Once we know them, we can tackle them. So that amount of self-effort is required to remove these obstacles, self-effort on our part. Sometimes we find we are not making enough progress in spiritual life. So we can examine ourselves and see whether we are stuck, we are being hindered by any of these obstacles. So that's why he has listed these obstacles. And these obstacles hinder us in both ways. Pranidhana is one spiritual practice, that meditation. Smriti sadhana is another practice which we do when we are not meditating, when we are engaged in our day-to-day activities. Sadhana happens at these two levels. These obstacles, they hinder our sadhana in both these levels, at both these levels. They hinder our smriti sadhana, and they hinder our pranidhana. Both ways they hinder. So we need to deal with them. There were total 9 in number. He had listed 9 antarayats, vikshepas, distractions, obstacles. The last one was anavasthitatva, that is inability to retain a yogic state once achieved. So a person has achieved a certain yogic state but is unable to retain it. That is anavasthitatva, that is an obstacle. But that comes only to seekers who have advanced fairly in spiritual life. That is not for the beginners or many of us. The rest we can relate with them. The last one is difficult to relate with. The last but one was alabdha bhumikatva, that is inability to achieve any advanced yogic state, inability to progress in spiritual life. That's what we feel, that we are not progressing in spiritual life, that the mind gets occupied, so to say, with that inability or failure, and that becomes an obstacle. So we want some indication, some indicators that we are progressing in spiritual life. We want to make spiritual progress. It's not happening. No, the mind gets occupied with that. That becomes an obstacle. So we should understand that spiritual life is not a life of few months or years. It's a life of so many lives. And that's why patience is most important. We should have patience. Secondly, some people are unfortunate. They don't really settle on anyone, and then that becomes an obstacle. until realization. But that is not unhealthy doubt. But this doubt which stops us from undertaking any serious spiritual practice, that needs to be tackled. And that can be tackled by reading authentic books. This doubt and Bhranti Darshana, they are somewhat related. Bhranti Darshana, wrong ideas about spiritual life. So doubt can be conquered or tackled by reading authentic books and associating with faithful people who have faith. Associating with them will give us faith. So faith is the antidote for doubt. For that, first we need to study authentic books and try to understand what is the truth as recorded in our scriptures. There could be Bhranti Darshana. Bhranti Darshana is, there are so many teachers, they have fantastic ideas about yoga. The world is full of them. So we should save ourselves from such people. We should stick to tradition and try to understand what is spiritual life. If we don't, then we will be carried away. And that will be Bhranti Darshana. Having wrong ideas about yoga, about Vedanta, about spiritual life, we should save ourselves from these. Second reason for Bhranti Darshana, or second instance of Bhranti Darshana, is trying to fiddle with what our Guru has told. So Guru has given a specific direction, specific process. We should stick to it, verbatim, in truth and in letter and spirit. We should not try to fiddle with it. That's another instance of Bhranti Darshana. If we think that we know better than our Guru and try to calibrate what Guru has told, that is a clear instance of Bhranti Darshana. We are deluded that we know better than Guru. The other kind of Bhranti Darshana is that the indications, if at all any come, we mistake them for higher realization, so to say. See, invariably somebody comes and says, I have realized God. They have that idea, that is clear-cut Bhranti Darshana. So there are tests of spiritual realizations, whether it makes one morally strong, whether it makes one detached and pure. There are certain criteria. So we should employ those and be circumspect when we are thinking about our own spiritual attainments. We should be very circumspect. We should tally them with the scriptures, and we should tally them with people who are advanced, and then only we should accept them. And second point is that these, even if any indications come, we should know these are only indications. This is not the goal. So we should keep on moving. But if we take these initial indications as the ultimate goal, then that becomes an obstacle. So like that, these are a few obstacles that we discussed. We repeated again because these are quite useful. We can examine our own life vis-a-vis these obstacles. There is another group of three obstacles that Patanjali mentions, which is pramada, sthana and avirati. Pramada, sthana and avirati. Pramada is inadvertence. Sthana is listlessness. And avirati is lack of detachment. Lack of detachment. So these are the three obstacles which hinder our spiritual progress. Inadvertence, how can we define it? It is like we know the way, we know the path, we have the means, but we don't employ those means. We don't use those means. That is inadvertence. It's a very unfortunate state. Person who doesn't know or doesn't have means, if that person doesn't employ, doesn't exert, it's kind of pardonable. But a person who knows and has the means but doesn't employ those, That is inadvertence, that is unpardonable. That is why it's called pramado vai mrityuhu. Pramada is as good as death. This pramada is, these three are actually very crucial, and they plague many spiritual aspirants. Pramada, inadvertence, inability to employ means in spite of having the know-how and in spite of having the means, that is pramada. This leads to listlessness. Listlessness is, there is absolutely no constructive thinking in the mind. The thinking process of the mind has no process, or rather has no logical framework. It's random. The mind just goes on a rampage, so to say, thinking of all things under and above the sun. That's the general state of mind for most of the people. But for a yogi, it is not an acceptable state, it's an obstacle. Yogi's mind should be logical, and yogi should decide what thoughts my mind should be thinking. For others, it is all right. But when mind takes its own charge and starts thinking its own thoughts, that becomes listlessness. The yogi has lost control, so to say. And one of the reasons for this is pramada. Because pramada is where we have lost employing the means. And then mind, so to say, slips back into listlessness. And the third is avirati. This word is quite interesting. It is a double negative, so to say. There is rati, that is delight. There is virati, that is detachment. And then there is avirati, that is absence of detachment. Now this word indicates a process actually, indicates a journey. This word avirati indicates a journey. People who are not yogis, people who are not spiritual aspirants, their horizon is very limited. The horizon of their thinking is limited. For them this world is absolutely real. And the joys of this world are what they are after. They have rati, delight, in pursuing the pleasures of this world. Because they have not seen or heard of anything beyond this world or beyond themselves. They think themselves to be body, mind, and the world as they see, this is the absolute truth. Naturally, they want the best out of what is available. And they have rati in it, they delight in it. But then, by grace of God, by the punya karma of so many lives and holy men's association, a new vista, so to say, opens in the heart of a spiritual aspirant. He or she comes to have an inkling that beyond this particular body and mind, there is an identity of mind which is not limited to this body and mind. Beyond this world, there is a truth, there is God. Now this vista, this vision, this horizon expands, this expansion of vision and horizon, a new vista, so to say, opening, that makes that person think, what am I doing? If this is the truth, I should realize it. That faith brings out the commitment and effort. And then that person develops virati, that is detachment towards pursuit of the happiness or pleasures of this world. That is the second stage, so to say. A new vista has opened, a new vision has opened, the horizon has widened. He or she clearly feels that there is something beyond this world. There is something that can be achieved beyond the petty achievements of this world. And to achieve that, I have to withdraw from the pursuit of the pleasures of this world. Unless I withdraw from the pursuit of pleasures of this world, I cannot see what is beyond this world. See, unless we withdraw our entanglement with the appearances, we cannot say what is real. Real is right there, that real alone is appearing as appearances. So unless we withdraw our entanglement with the appearance, we cannot see what is real. So that person has got knowledge, that kind of knowledge, that kind of faith, and that leads to detachment, that leads to virati. And that person becomes a yogi. However, infant you can say, in initial stages, but the detachment has come. Now having taken to the path of yoga with the help of detachment, due to this past samskaras, there is lack of this detachment. And the yogi again, even for time being, temporarily, engages in rati, engages in delight in the pleasures of this world, which it knows are pleasures of the apparent, not of the reality. That loss of virati is avirati, that is lack of virati. The yogi has attained virati. It has got a measure of detachment, but somehow slips, somehow loses it due to the past samskaras. And that is where this pramada and avirati, they go hand in hand. There is pramada and avirati leading to pramada. The past samskaras, they pull the yogi from virati to avirati, and that becomes a pramada. We see so many examples in our Puranas, so many examples in our Puranas where yogis and rishis and munis, having practiced spiritual austerity for years, they get to this obstacle called avirati. They lose that virati, and that becomes an obstacle. So these three, pramada, avirati and sthana, listlessness, these kind of go hand in hand. And the antidote, so to say, for these is developing an attitude, a habit to observe our own mind. That's introspection. Introspection, but the word introspection is generally used when we sit in a place and introspect. But this is not that kind of introspection. It is a watchfulness, so to say. It's a continuous exercise, continuous habit of watchfulness over our own mind. We watch our own mind. What is happening in it? Are we really going in the right direction? And in this again, I go back to Smriti Sadhana. Smriti Sadhana helps. Smriti Sadhana, wherein we assert our goal and our commitment to the goal and the means we need to employ, we again and again remember ourselves. We again and again remember the truth, the object of our faith, and keep ourselves on the track. So watchfulness and Smriti Sadhana, these are the antidotes for these three very dangerous, so to say, obstacles of pramada, sthana and avirati. So these are the 9 obstacles that Patanjali talks of. We can examine ourselves. These are meant for our own examination, our own introspection. We can see where we are stuck, and at different times we will be hit by different obstacles. So it is not that one obstacle alone is hitting us. At different times, different obstacles hinder our progress, so we have to be watchful. And Patanjali takes this particular topic forward, and he says that these 9, they give rise to or generate some more indications in the yogi called dukkha daurmanasya angame jayatva shvasa prashvasa vikshepa sahabhavaha. So another 4 or 5 he lists. These are vikshepa sahabhavas, that is, they accompany or are the indicators or the reactions of the vikshepas mentioned earlier. So 9 antarayas, and 4 or 5 vikshepa sahabhuvas, the accompaniments of those antarayas. He lists 4 or 5 of them. The first one is dukkha. Everyone knows what is dukkha. It is pain, a mental state which we want to get rid of. It comes from vyadhi sometimes, which is from our own body, or it comes from other beings, or it comes from natural forces. Either way, dukkha comes, and dukkha becomes an obstacle in our pursuit of spiritual life, spiritual practices. We should make effort to get rid of that misery, but at some point we should also know that there are types of pains which we cannot avoid. We have to bear them, we have to put up with them. So that becomes that maturity we should have. What is within our capacity to remove and what is beyond our capacity to remove. That maturity we should have. So that is the first vikshepa sahabhuva, the accompaniment of antaraya, that is dukkha. The next is daurmanasya, that is dejection. Dejection comes because of many reasons. Dejection comes because we are not able to make any spiritual progress. Dejection comes because we repeatedly fail to keep our progress going on account of pramada. Dejection may also come because we want to quickly reach the goal and we are not able to do it. Many causes of dejection. But the antidote is only this: we have to have patience. We should know that before succeeding, every spiritual aspirant has fallen 1,000 times. One of the direct disciples says, spiritual life is walking in a slush. You walk 3 steps, you are going to fall. It's walking in a slush. So we should have that patience and not be dejected by it. Like that, there are another few. We'll see in next class. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna.